What's up, guys? It's Bronley with Empire Barbell. Today I want to talk a little bit about Olympic lifting shoes, what they do, and why you might need them. So if you've been around long enough, you've probably seen people wearing flashy fashion accessories like this. My girlfriend just got me these for Valentine's Day. I do most of my lifting in Olympic shoes because primarily I have really bad ankle mobility in my right ankle. Now, I've been squatting since I was 13. I've never had a problem dropping down into the hole until an unfortunate roller skating accident back in 2014 broke my ankle. The end result is a plate and 12 screws and really bad mobility. Notice how when I squat down, my right heel pops off the ground. My left heel doesn't do that. So my saving grace was Olympic lifting shoes. Now, before I go into this, it's important to know that I'm a minimalist. I do not like flashy things, and I don't like things that cost money that don't give their value back in return. So to understand what these do and whether or not you might need them, let's break down the mechanics of a squat. So if I'm doing a high bar squat, a front squat, or some other type of overhead movement, my success is going to be determined on how vertical I stay the entire time. A really high bar Olympic squat is going to involve the hips staying directly underneath the shoulders. The front squat, the exact same is true. Even an effective push press, or jerk for that matter, is going to involve being explosive while keeping the hips directly under you. If your hips tend to track back, you're going to be put in an awkward position. You're not going to be able to drive optimally up into the bar. So the name of the game for these movements is stay upright. Now, for me to stay upright in a squat, that means my hips have to stay directly under me. For that to happen, my knees have to track forward. Now, I can only have them track forward to a point until tension is built up in my ankle that restricts that movement, and then my hips have to slide back slightly to accommodate. Now, if you have very tight ankles, you're not going to be able to get into that position. People with very tight ankles will run into a wall quicker where their knees can no longer get forward and their hips have to start tracking back to finish the squat. That's always going to dump you forward into a bent over position. So the quick and dirty test to see if you need Olympic lifting shoes is going to be to execute a squat or a front squat with bare feet and then reproduce that movement with your heel elevated and take notice of the difference. So with my heels elevated, my foot is now pointed down at an angle. So imagine this rogue deadlift jack is my foot and my shin. This angle represents the most amount of flexion I can get out of my ankle joint. So if my foot's flat on the ground, this is as far forward as my knee can come. Now, if I point my toe down at a slight angle, notice that my knee is able to come forward more. And that's going to lend itself to my hip being more forward more, which means a more upright squat or front squat position. So to test it out, elevate your heel on a pair of 5 or 10 pound plates, go through your proper bracing cues, and then execute a squat as vertically as you can the entire way. You're probably going to notice that staying upright in this position is much, much easier with your heels elevated than without. If that's the case, congratulations, you're a candidate for Olympic lifting shoes. Olympic lifting shoes will also help stabilize you on overhead presses, but they're not as necessary because your ankle doesn't tend to go through quite as much flexion. Now, fixing your squat or overhead position might not just be as simple as elevating your heel and having everything click together. There's still other considerations to take in. You still want your ankles to be mobile, so if they're tight, start stretching. Stretches are as easy as putting your toe on some type of upright, dropping your heel in, and then slowly pulling yourself in. Stretches like that should be done for at least a minute, and you can do them daily, if not multiple times a day. Rolling is another good option. You can have a significant other, a good buddy, take a rolling pin, and while you lay down flat on a couch, they can go to town on those suckers. You'll be surprised what a few minutes of painful calf rolling can do to your ankle mobility. On top of that, let's talk about where the knees are going. If the knees are just going front to back, then we have to worry about the full front to back distance of your femur. But if you turn your knees out to the side, that front to back distance shortens. So when I cue a squat or a front squat, I'm not just telling people to run their knees forward, I'm telling them to run them forward and out to the side. And that makes it much easier for the hips to drop straight down. That's actually the same when we do an overhead press. Instead of standing up and just having the knees come forward, you want to think about having the knees come forward and out so you open up a space that your hips can drop into. So the next time you're struggling with a squat or an overhead press, elevate your heel, see if it helps. If it does, spend a little bit of money on some Olympic lifting shoes. You can get a solid pair of Adidas, usually on clearance for 50 or 60 bucks, Or if you're a big spender, you can blow the full 220 on a brand new pair of Romaleos. I'm known for being a hand-me-down whore, so if it wasn't for my girlfriend trying to get me to step my game up, I'd still be wearing these busted pair of hand-me-down Romaleos I got 4 years ago from a buddy of mine. Long story short, Olympic lifting shoes can help with stability, which helps with coordination, and remember those two things always come before strength and power.